What up, everybody? This is Magic Mike right here.
And this Swag.
Right, and we are continuing to break down this upcoming NBA season with our previews. And you are in store because today we're doing
Houston Rockets.
The Houston Rockets. So, jumping right into this, we're going to talk about just the acquisitions that were made this off season, right? Big loss with Trevor Ariza. I think
it's one of the biggest losses.
I do too. Like, he is so underrated. He was really an X factor for him. He can always lock up the other team's best player. Again, he's a solid 3-point threat. He rebounds well. Overall, good locker room guy.
Absolutely.
Huge loss. They also lost Mabut Amabute, whatever his name is.
And then Ryan Anderson as well.
Right.
So you lost two of your starters.
Right. And Ryan Anderson, we'll talk about that in a second.
Absolutely.
But Mabut Amabute, whatever his name is, also an excellent defender.
Yeah.
So you lose him as well, which leaves you with really
no defense minus Chris Paul and Capella.
Chris Paul, Capella, and
the occasional steal from Harden.
Yeah. So, and PJ Tucker can lock up too, but still, just really, I think it's gonna be a huge loss for him.
I think so too.
Now, if we're talking about just some acquisitions that they picked up, sorry, my things here. Oh, picked up Marquise Chris, Brandon Knight, and Ennis.
Ennis is
So I love that move. They've been talking about moving Ryan Anderson for years.
Yeah.
Again, initially the thought was, man, if we could have a stretch four, that would change up everything.
Yeah.
But now teams are just running smaller lineups where you can put a small forward at 4.
Absolutely.
And they realize we don't need this guy for the amount of money we're throwing at him.
No, you don't.
So, great move. I like Brandon Knight a lot. I feel like he hasn't really... I mean, he had injury problems, and he's maybe been put in situations where it hasn't been the greatest fit. But I still think that maybe he could turn into something kind of similar to a Austin Rivers.
So like a late bloomer?
Yeah, it's just I think a lot of it is situation.
Yeah.
And I think this could be a good situation for him.
Absolutely.
If he gets on the court, because he's kind of their third-string guy. They also picked up Michael Carter-Williams.
Well, I was going to touch on that right now.
Okay.
And, similar to Brandon Knight, maybe it changes scenery. I mean, the guy was not offensive rookie of the year. He was just rookie of the year.
Right.
I mean, the downside, though, is you're behind Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Which, Chris Paul's a Hall of Famer. Chris Paul's going to be on the court like 36 minutes a game.
Until he gets hurt.
If that happens.
Yeah. Pretty good chance.
And I feel like you're not going to play Chris Paul and Michael Carter-Williams on the court at the same time.
Right.
For the most part, I mean, maybe situations, call for that. For the most part, I mean, you're sticking with Paul, Harden, Anthony. Those guys are like locks to play nonstop.
Yeah. Carmelo, that's the other move that they made. We're going with ESPN's depth chart right now. They have him starting at the small forward spot. I love this move for Melo. I think he's a stud. And all the stuff that's been said about him over the years, he's a ball stopper, he's not that athletic, he doesn't play defense, blah, blah, blah. I feel like this is the perfect situation for him. You get 2 point guards who just suck the defense in.
Yeah.
All he has to do is spot up and hit shots.
You've seen him in preseason, right?
Yeah, he's crushing it.
They've been nonstop talking about. I mean, obviously, ESPN Sports Center like to post pretty much the same thing. They have their preferred players, but you're seeing the Chris Paul, just pass out to Melo in the corner 3, and they're just. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I like the spot, 3-point shooting, but it's just like, similar to what other teams are doing. You're trying to emulate the Warriors instead of trying to beat them.
Right.
And it's like you're not going to beat them with their same lineup. Like the Warriors just. Are leagues ahead. Right.
And part of it too is Houston has they're copying the Warriors model.
Yeah.
But they're not copying the Warriors model. They're copying what they see in Warriors highlights.
Yeah.
They're jacking up so many threes.
Oh, they're shooting way more than one.
But they don't realize the Warriors play defense, and the Warriors do a lot of stuff, a lot of ball movement and cutting action.
Well, they're more efficient as well.
Yeah. Well, it's because of all the cutting and all the stuff.
Yeah, you're getting great shots.
So, the Warriors, their biggest thing is James Harden and Chris Paul have to work really, really, really hard to get their offense going. I really like Eric Gordon. I love that they still have him. I think he was huge for him last year, and him this year, as their shot at Sixth Man of the Year. Really thinking they'll be all right this year. One of the things we like to talk about in these previews is do we see them trending up or do we see them trending down? Because a lot of times teams will keep a squad together and they'll hit their plateau, right? We'll use Chris Paul's Lob City Clippers, for instance, right?
Yeah.
They just thought, man, we're just one piece away from putting us over the top. When it really came down to your two-star guys couldn't get it done at the end of the day, and they were a second-round team at best. At some point, you need to throw in the towel and say, okay, should we rebuild? Should we make some moves? Now, Houston had an amazing season last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously you gotta keep going forward. But what do you think's their ceiling? Do we see them trending up now that they lost some of their defensive presence? We mentioned some of these pickups that they made that are all offensive guys, but they don't really need more offense.
Yeah, they need more defense.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking at their depth chart, I didn't actually know the full extent of who they picked up. I mean, they actually had a pretty busy offseason if you think about it. They got Anthony, Chris, you got Carter Williams, you got Ennis, Knight. I mean, those 5 players. That's a substantial offseason.
Absolutely.
It looks like they're trying to bolster their bench. Yeah. Now, I think their bench has gone significantly better.
Yeah.
I like the presence of Chris down there because he just has that, there's that grit. Now, the dude's prone for foul trouble, but I mean, I love that style of play, because I feel like I emulate that. It's just that rough kind of, I don't care if I'm going to get 5 fouls a game mentality.
Right.
And I think you need some of that physical presence, whereas I feel like last year they were more finesse players.
Okay.
And just having that extra, kind of grit, I think is going to be good.
Yeah.
But have they gotten it substantially better? No, because I think their ceiling last year was so high. They were a 65 or whatever, 62 win team. I mean, it's really hard in this league how it's getting more and more competitive with certain teams to actually compete with that, where the teams are basically going to beat each other, and you're going to see these records kind of drop down a little bit.
Right.
So, I mean...
Yeah. I think some of the big factors that need to be talked about. Absolutely, we talked about they lost Ariza and a lot of what they're doing defensively. The West also got stronger. Yeah. Right. LeBron moved over here. Another powerhouse. The Spurs
are the same for the most
Spurs
part.
got better because Kawhi didn't play last year.
Yeah.
DeRozan to the Spurs when Kawhi wasn't playing. I mean, I know they just lost DeJounte Murray, which is a huge loss.
And then Lonnie Walker. And
Ginobili, which is huge. But
that is a loss.
Overall, they picking up DeRozan was huge for him.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you basically covered that position.
They got better. Yeah, they got better from last year.
Yeah.
I think Houston got a little bit worse. I think the fact that Chris Paul last year, that was his first season with Houston, so he's fired up. I don't see them being as dominant as they were.
Do you think it's an age factor, though? Because Chris Paul is getting older.
Yes.
Now, I mean, we could say for the most part, we have seen some athletes actually get better with age, like LeBron being one. Tom Brady is actually kind of getting better.
Yeah. No, Chris Paul's not going to get any better.
But you don't think he's going to get better? You think he's actually going to get worse?
I think he's going to stay the same for a little bit. I'm not the biggest Chris Paul fan. I think that he's very systematic in the way he sees the game, and which is good for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
But at some point, you need to defy the system and be able to make huge plays when push comes to shove. And Chris Paul can do that, but when you talk about creating your own offense, the spots where Chris Paul likes to score in, he has to work really, really, really hard to get those shots off.
Yeah.
And he's capable of doing it, but one of his problems is he's injury prone, right? Yeah. He's had that hamstring problem last year. He had it a few years ago with the Clippers. A lot of that is he's doing all this stop and start stuff where he'll go full blast and then change direction and have to contort his body.
Yeah.
Bending backwards to try to get his shot up over some of these taller, more athletic defenders. He just has to work really, really, really hard for his offense, which to me will play a factor as he does get older. The advantage that he has James Harden, so he doesn't have to bolster that whole.
No, absolutely. I mean, and plus, I think Melo. I think now that you say that, it kind of makes sense bringing in Melo. Is you're trying to lighten the load a little bit for Chris Paul.
Right.
So you got Harden who's creating his own offense. You bring in Anthony who's a little bit of a ball hog.
Right.
but as well he can create his own offense.
Right.
You know, I mean, he's fantastic off the dribble, off the pass, but he can create his own offense.
Right. And he was in a bum situation last year with it just wasn't the greatest fit as far as style of play with Paul George and Russell Westbrook. So I think
a better scenario.
Yeah, it's a better situation for him. So we'll see how they do. I think
Number 2 seed, I think.
The Warriors got stronger, too, which is a bummer for Rockets fans.
Yeah.
Because, again, they had their little window last year when Chris Paul got hurt. But we'll see what happens. Again, they've got more offense now with all these new acquisitions that they made, and they're definitely going to be shooting the ball. So anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're jacking up a bunch of threes.
Absolutely.
Live and die by the three. Anyway, there you have it. That's our Houston Rockets season preview. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe below, and until next video, we'll see you later.
Peace.